Hey brewers, I've brewed this traditional lager using a Fresh Wort Kit. Now traditional means that my fermentation profile was cold at around about 14 degrees. I then set it aside post-fermentation for a conditioning or lagering period for 2 weeks. However, in true BKA brewing style, I did go for an added twist. Now you can see from the haze there, it doesn't actually look traditional. It's not light and clear and see-through. There's not a lot of clarity going on there. And that's because I actually dry hopped this lager. Now I actually sought a little bit more community engagement from this video on how it was going to go together. So number one, I put a poll up asking whether I should brew this lager traditionally cold or whether I should do it slightly warmer under a little bit of pressure. Now the vote was an overwhelming traditional cold, hence why I went down the cold approach with this. And number two, I actually asked for your thoughts on dry hopping a lager. Now, I did want to go with the recommended suggestions on this Fresh Wort Kit, which is why I went down the route of dry hopping anyway. I just went for a little bit of an experiment, just so that we could all see what it was like. So thank you very much to everyone that contributed to those community engagement posts. Cheers. So All In Brewing Co.'s Lager Fresh Wort Kit. The tasting notes are a crisp, dry and refreshing lager. The dry hop suggestion is Motueka hops. It wants 50 grams of those. Now, traditionally you wouldn't see a dry hop in a lager because you don't normally want to add in any of those fruitier kind of flavors. But we know from the Australian Pale Ale that the Motueka hops just adds a hint of some lemon and lime. Maybe a little bit of herbal notes in the background as well. So I think that could be a good option for the lager today, especially considering the yeast that we're going to use is a lager yeast. So unlike the Australian Pale Ale, it shouldn't accentuate the hop flavors and it shouldn't really be like a hop bomb. It should just be some hints of lemon and lime. Now for the yeast suggestion, it is S189. Unfortunately, the brew shop did not have S189 on hand, so I've opted for SafLager W-34, which is, to me, either the next best or the equivalent yeast. Now, like I said in the introduction to the video, the plan here today is to ferment a traditional lager. So I'm going to ferment this at 14 degrees today for, look, I'm probably going to say maybe about a week, maybe 9-10 days, just depends how quickly it takes off. Once fermentation is all but complete, I will do a dry hop for 2 days. After the dry hop, because it's a lager, we'll bump it up for a slight diacetyl rest, just to make sure that we don't end up with any diacetyl buttery flavors in our finished beer. Then I plan on doing a cold crush, letting it sit in the keg conditioning or lagering for 2 weeks to hopefully get that beautiful crispness, some added clarity to the lager as well, before we snap off our first sample and do our review. All right, so we've got the kit, we've sanitized our hands and the pull tab. All right, and there we go. Just dropping all of that wort nicely into the Fermzilla here. Oh my God, it smells beautiful. Just making sure that we don't want to spill a drop here. Obviously this blood is nice and heavy, or it was heavy. So you just want to make sure when doing this, everything is perfectly sanitized. The pull tab is sanitized, your hands are sanitized, just because you don't know what some of this stuff might have touched. So with the 15 liters of wort now sitting in our fermenter, I'm going to top this up to 20 liters with another 5 liters of pre-boiled water. All right, so we'll just make sure to give our wort a really big stir now that it's topped up to 20 liters. So that's just going to help us aerate it a little bit, but as well as just to stir in the extra 5 liters of water that we just put in, and just to make sure that when we do go for a hydrometer reading, we get an accurate gravity first go. So we've got our hydrometer nice and sanitized. We'll drop the pill hydrometer straight in there so that we can get our first gravity reading. So our starting gravity is 1.042, confirmed by the pill hydrometer, and the current temperature is 20 degrees, which is going to be our pitching temperature for the yeast today. It is time to pitch the yeast. So just give that a nice spray with some sanitizer. Hands are definitely sanitized. Cut the top off the packet. All right, and we're just going to sprinkle that straight in there over the top. So being the traditional cold fermentation, I will be doing this at 14 degrees. Now, before we go any further into the video, I want you to let me know in the comment section below what fermentation method you prefer for a lager. Do you prefer the traditional cold style fermentation, or do you prefer the slightly newer, more modern, warmer, pressurized fermentation? Let me know in the comments below. We now find ourselves on day 9 for our 50 gram dry hop of the Motueka hops. Now, the Motueka hops are supposed to provide that citrusy, lemon, lime, herbal, and orchid type of flavors and aromas. Now, traditionally in a lager, you don't necessarily find those types of flavors or smells because you're not actually dry hopping in a lager. So this is a bit of an experiment here for us at BKA Brewing. So here we have the first pour of our traditional lager Fresh Wort Kit. Now, the starting gravity on this one was 1.042 and the final gravity was 1.008. Now, that provided us with an ABV of 4.5%. So here we have our traditional lager from our Fresh Wort Kit. Now, I'm just going to move this in front of my face because normally or traditionally a lager is actually super clear. The clarity is beautiful. You can often see things on the other side. However, this beer, it's actually quite hazy. Now, I'm solely putting this down to the dry hop additions because just like any other lager, I had it lagering and conditioning for 2 weeks. I did a cold crash for a few days. So I was actually expecting this beer to come out a lot clearer than what it did. So I'm actually putting it down to a little bit of a hop haze, if you will. I'm hoping that over the coming weeks, if this beer actually lasts this long on tap, that it will actually start to clear up a little bit. That being said, I still think it looks phenomenal and I can't wait to dive in for a taste. All right, so I'm just gonna go for the aroma straight up. Oh yeah, it definitely smells like a traditional lager. Yeah, got that beautiful lagery, like that crisp kind of smell that you get when you smell a lager. I think there's definitely a hint of the lemon and lime in that. Not overpowering at all. Like it's not distinct, but it's just a hint. It's there. It smells good. Yeah, that smells nice. You know, because normally a lager just smells like a lager. And quite often that's it. You might get a bit of a malty kind of smell to it, but yeah, this is good. I really like the smell of that. That's quite nice. All right, with that out of the way, I'm going to jump in for a taste. Oh, that's very crisp. That's beautiful. Yep, exactly what you're wanting for a lager. Really crisp, refreshing. It's actually quite light. I mean, the appearance makes it look like it's going to be dense and thick, but that's actually quite nice. That's really good. Definitely getting the lemon and the lime flavors out of that. You could even go as far to say that it's a little bit sweet. Like I said before, traditionally, lagers don't have dry hops in them. They're just very crisp, very refreshing, maybe with some piney and some earthy flavors in there. But yeah, it's lemon, it's lime, it's sweet. It's actually quite nice. I don't mind that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go ahead and start dry hopping every single lager that I make, but I might consider doing it more in future beers or just different types of experiments, because I think that has actually proven quite successful. Now, with the recommendations on the box from All In Brewing Co., it did recommend this as a dry hop. Now, do I recommend that you, as a viewer or as a home brewer as well, do the dry hop? Absolutely. Give it a crack. You're actually going to be quite surprised in how it turns out, I think. And just like me, you might decide that to heck with it. I'm actually going to do this in future brews. Not all of them. Like I wouldn't go ahead and do this in a Pilsner or anything like that, but you know, maybe in an Australian lager, you could probably get away with some of those lemon and limey flavors. Now, I'm not going to go throwing anything ridiculously tropical or anything like that in them, because to me, there's a line, there's a limit, and that crosses the line for a lager. It's just not happening. Now, in terms of the lagers that I have done on this channel before, so I've done the limited release draft now, I've done the Japanese lager, and I've now just done, I suppose, the traditional lager. In terms of ranking them, I will have to go, number 1 is the Japanese lager. Number 2 is this lager right here. This is an absolute beaut. Try it if you haven't already. And then number 3 would be the draft coming in at the end. Now, I did actually try something a little bit different with this brew in this video, is a little bit of community engagement. So number 1, I put up the poll about whether I should do this traditional or whether I should do it under pressure, a little bit warmer. And then number 2, I actually secretly got your thoughts on what it's like to do a dry hop in a lager. So I've incorporated both of those polls into this video here today. Now, please make sure that you give the video a like, comment below and let me know what you think about a traditional lager, brought cold or warm. And number 2, do you think you should dry hop a lager? Yes or no? And tell me why. Cheers, guys, and happy brewing.